55 years ago, a strange incident occurred in Russia that still puzzles people today. A mysterious event involves a group of experienced hikers who set out on a mountain expedition hundreds of kilometers away from civilization, where temperatures were consistently below freezing. The entire group mysteriously disappeared, leaving behind only a haunting final photograph. To this day, numerous theories have been proposed to explain their disappearance, but the likelihood of the case being solved remains slim. In this video, we will attempt to decode the mystery. Just imagine, this case became so famous that the place where the tragedy occurred was named after one of the men who died there, the Dyatlov Pass. On January 23, 1959, the experienced hikers of the Dyatlov group began their dangerous journey. Their plan was to travel from Ibzyl to Otorten, a challenging 16-day trek through the frozen mountains of the western Siberia region, crossing Ural Mountain. The group consisted of 8 men and 2 women, all of whom were skilled, Grade 2 hikers, led by Igor Dyatlov. Igor carefully documented every detail of the journey in his diary and with his camera. The hikers were well prepared and familiar with the route. Upon completing this trip, each hiker was supposed to receive a Grade 3 certification, the highest rank for hikers in the Soviet Union at the time. However, one of the hikers fell ill during the journey and had to turn back early, as clearly visible in the group's photos. The remaining 9 hikers continued on, making their way through the harsh, icy conditions. Igor continued to document everything as usual, and up until this point, all seemed normal. The group eventually reached a location in the mountains known as Dead Mountain, where they set up camp for the night. Picture this, hundreds of kilometers away from any human settlement, with the temperature well below freezing. The events that followed are almost unimaginable. The last photographs taken by the hikers were of their tents. After that, they all mysteriously vanished. Weeks later, a search party was sent to find the missing group. They arrived at the campsite and discovered the hikers' tents still standing but slashed open from the inside. The personal belongings of the hikers were left behind in the tents. It appeared that in a panic they had cut their way out, rather than exiting through the door as they normally would. But why would they do this? What did they see or experience inside the tent that caused them to flee in such a hurry? The search party found footprints leading away from the camp, but intriguingly, the footprints were not from people running in fear. They were normal walking steps. The footprints were tracked for about 500 meters until they disappeared, likely covered by falling snow. The search party followed the trail further and eventually came to a forested area with a pine tree. There, they found a broken branch about 5 meters up the tree, suggesting that the hikers had tried to climb it, possibly to escape something. A bonfire was found nearby, but it had already been extinguished. Next to the fire, the search party discovered 2 dead bodies, Krivonishenko and Doroshenko, both of whom were strangely only wearing their boxer shorts despite the freezing temperature. How could they have walked over a kilometer from the camp without clothing in such extreme cold? 2 months later, the bodies of all 9 hikers were found, divided into 3 groups. The first group, consisting of 3 hikers, was found in a straight line from the pine tree. It appeared that they were trying to return to the camp but couldn't make it. Strangely, they were also undressed, despite the freezing cold. The last group of 4 bodies was found about 75 meters from the pine tree, buried under 4 meters of snow. This is where the investigation gets even more puzzling. 6 of the hikers died from hypothermia, brought on by the extreme cold, but the other 3 had severe internal injuries. Dubinina and Zolotaryov had multiple broken ribs, while Brignol suffered a massive skull fracture. According to forensic experts, the injuries resembled those caused by a blast wave, as if from a bomb, but no evidence of explosives was found. The horror deepened when investigators made a strange discovery. Zolotaryov's eyes, those windows to his soul, were shockingly missing, his empty eye sockets staring vacantly into the void. But the nightmare did not end there. Dubinina's fate was even more grotesque. Not only were her eyes missing, but her tongue was missing too. What force could possibly commit such barbarity in the cold, desolate mountains? And yet, despite these shocking, inexplicable findings, the investigation took an even darker turn. Lev Ivanov, the Soviet Union's lead investigator, after reviewing the grisly evidence, made the startling decision to close the case. His conclusion? That there had been no foul play. A statement so stark, so devoid of explanation, it seemed to defy all logic. The case was abruptly closed, with the official verdict seemingly offering more questions than answers. No trace of criminal activity was found, and the mystery of what truly happened that night was left unresolved, sealed away by the authorities, but never truly laid to rest. So, what exactly happened on the night of February 1st? Over the years, numerous theories have emerged, each attempting to explain the mystery. Some suggest that the Soviet government was involved. Others propose alien or paranormal explanations. But most of these theories lack solid evidence. However, there are two theories that seem to offer plausible explanations for the key questions. What caused the severe internal injuries? And what made the hikers panic and flee the tent in the middle of the night? One theory, supported by Swedish archaeologist Richard Holmgren, suggests that katabatic winds, powerful gravity-driven winds that descend rapidly from mountain slopes, could have been responsible for the events. Holmgren conducted his own expedition to the Dyatlov Pass in 2019 to better understand the conditions the hikers faced. He concluded that such winds could have caused a sudden, violent storm at the camp, terrifying the hikers and forcing them to cut their way out of the tent. With the temperature at -30 degrees Celsius outside, they would have been in immediate danger of freezing. The winds would have been strong enough to tear the tent apart, and the hikers, fearing for their lives, fled into the freezing cold without proper clothing. After walking 1,500 meters, they reached the pine tree and attempted to start a fire to stay warm, but it was insufficient. 4 of the hikers, who were dressed appropriately, walked off in search of shelter, only to be caught in an avalanche. The avalanche buried them under snow and rocks, causing the severe injuries found on their bodies. Another theory revolves around a faulty stove inside the tent. It's believed that Igor Dyatlov had installed a stove inside the tent to keep the group warm, but the exhaust pipe malfunctioned, filling the tent with smoke. The hikers began to suffocate, which would explain their panicked decision to cut their way out. Evidence of burn marks on their bodies supports this theory. Once outside, the hikers, without clothing and exposed to the freezing temperatures, would have struggled to survive. They may have tried to reach the pine tree for warmth, but most of them eventually succumbed to hypothermia. Some believe the missing eyes and tongue may be the result of wild animal attacks, but there is no evidence of animals in the area. The area was remote, and there were no signs of an avalanche in the vicinity. Both the katabatic wind theory and the exhaust pipe theory offer plausible explanations for what could have happened that night. However, there are still many unanswered questions and ambiguities, and much of the mystery remains unsolved. The Dyatlov Pass incident continues to be one of the most puzzling cases in history. Despite numerous theories, no one can provide a definitive explanation. What happened to the Dyatlov group remains a chilling mystery, and perhaps we'll never know the full truth. It's been 65 years since this tragic event, and we still only have fragments of answers. 9 people died, and one, Yuri Yudin, who had turned back early due to illness, lived to a natural death in 2013 at the age of 73. What do you think about the two theories? Let us know in the comments section. And for more interesting videos, subscribe to our channel. This is interesting.